We're live. Hey everyone, I'm the black-haired Richard Core Kenobi here. I am back again with the long-awaited episode 3 of Kenobi's interviews. I apologize since it's been a while since I've done these, but please understand it's very hard to get guest. So yes, but we're finally here, and today's guest is going to be someone who is somewhat of a personal hero of mine. I've reacted to his stuff in the past. He makes amazing content, Versus series, geek talks, rants, you name it, he does it. And that person is Antoine Bandele.
Hello, everybody.
Yes, how are you, man?
I'm pretty good. I just got off doing a live stream on my channel, actually, because I try to do like once a month, just like what I did last month and what I plan to do next month, like as like a video journal, but as a live stream kind of.
Yeah. So yes, for those who don't know, tell us about yourself and what you do.
So I do quite like someone asked me the other day too. They're like, "What do you do?" I'm like, "I do lots and lots of things." Because I think I took a picture on my Instagram of like all the receipts I had to gather for like tax season because I do like so many different things. I work for Just Kidding Films where I do filming and editing for that channel. I do my own channel where I do all kinds of different kinds of content. And I also, right now, I'm a published author as of 3 weeks ago.
Yes, your new book, Tales of the Kiishi, if I'm pronouncing that right.
Yeah, Tales from Esawan, the Kishi. Tales from Esawan is the series name, and then the Kishi is the name of that particular story.
Yes, again, congratulations on that. I will be receiving my copy very soon because I'm very eager to read it, and all of the stuff I've heard about it from you, I think it's gonna be good, and I'm happy it's been getting good attractions, man.
Yeah, I hope so. Like I try to tell people too. I'm like, hey, you only have to pay like $4 if you do the digital version, but everybody's getting like the paperback version. Like for a while, like the paperback was actually doing better than the ebook, but now like the ebook is doing better because like it's a better value.
Yeah.
But I remember someone. Oh, I actually had a friend, not a friend. It was somebody. It was a Kickstarter who had got the digital version is the one that he got for the Kickstarter reward because I did a Kickstarter for the book, and he said, "Oh, I like it so much that I like bought the paperback because I wanted to get it in print." I was like, "Oh my goodness, that's crazy."
Yeah. Well, so tell everyone and what made you start YouTube? Because if I'm correct, you started making short films, right?
Yeah, well, first it was just like a place to throw up my silly videos with my friends. Like my first video on YouTube, 2006, like the year it came out, it was a video of my friends eating Pocky, and like literally, like it was like social media back then, like for Facebook or Twitter, or Instagram now, or Snapchat, all those things. Like that's how YouTube was before. And then I started like, oh, it's a cool place because back in 2006, the only way you got your videos online was by either having your own website, and then that took up a lot of bandwidth. So you'd had to pay for that. You had to pay extra space on your website to get videos online. So YouTube was a great spot because it was free. I mean, the video quality was pretty bad, but like it was free and you could just upload whatever you want. So a lot of filmmakers back then used YouTube as an archive for themselves to get their content up, not so much for like what it is now today.
Yeah, right. And then, well, I noticed this. You started making Star Wars short films as well. So where did that come from? Like, because I know for those who obviously have figured it out, you are a jack of all trades when it comes to Star Wars. You know the ins and outs of the expanded universe, and you know most of everything that goes on with the prequels and from where it has ended, unfortunately, with the new Disney version. So, like, how did you get into making Star Wars fan films?
Initially, what made me do that? I think I just had me and my brother used to always just fight with our little like lightsaber rubber toys. And I think it was just a matter of like one day we just, you know what it was? I think at that point I had watched Ryan versus Dorkman, and I had joined.
Yeah, that was a film,
which was also part of the old internet because that again was uploaded to the force.net, which was most people don't know this, but like Ryan and Dorkman didn't actually upload Ryan versus Dorkman onto YouTube. It was someone else who had downloaded it from theforce.net and then re-uploaded it. But I think it was that because I joined that board and I made films for what was then called and still called today the lightsaber choreography competition. I was in the 5th version of that, which was in 2005, I think.
Oh,
2006,
wow.
something like that. I can't remember when. I think something like that. But yeah, I think it was Ryan versus Dorkman. Well, not even so much Ryan versus Dorkman. It was more so Art of the Saber, which is something that most people don't remember, but it's actually, I think I prefer it over Ryan versus Dorkman, which was these two dudes fighting in a forest, and it was like around the time of like the Matrix, so like they were doing like cool like Matrix moves or whatever. But it was that Art of the Saber is what got me to do lightsaber videos of my own with my brother, and then eventually with my friend Whoopi, and then again with another friend that I met. The way I met him is through the competition, because he was like, "Oh, I live. Anybody in LA want to like do a fight?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm in LA. Let's do a fight." And then so we met, and that's how we like became friends, is through lightsaber fighting.
Oh, that's nice, man. That's nice. And I did watch some of those, and they were very, very good, and they're still good today. And I'm still happy in some small way you're making lightsaber choreography fights, especially the last 2 you did, which was the Grand Theft Auto versus Sleeping Dogs one, and that actually won an award, right? If I'm correct.
Yeah, that won first place in lightsaber choreography. Like forever, and I had gotten twice up until that point, and then I finally got first with that one.
Oh, okay, that's nice. That's nice. So
obviously, and then Kylo Ren: The Awakening.
Yes, that one. Oh my goodness. That to me helped a lot with Kylo Ren, because I mean it's a new character that's a Sith Lord, and I'm the type of person who likes to know these characters and their backstories.
This is when I would get into it, like you were saying, the ins and outs of Star Wars before, because when you say Sith Lord, it makes you go, well, Kylo is actually a Knight of Ren. He's not a Sith Lord.
Yes, like, I know.
That's one of those moments where I would do like,
no, I'm the same
where I'm
way.
like, well, actually, I didn't put the glasses up, and then you say,
I know. No, it's all right. I just say, I ironically say Sith Lord. But yeah, so what made you get into Star Wars? And as you said on your live stream, I did watch it, you have kind of you're not keeping up with the series as frequently, because it's understandable that everyone's just getting tired of Star Wars nowadays. But like before, that, like what made you get into Star Wars as a kid?
My dad, we were in Toys R Us, and it was in a bargain bin. And actually, I think it was Empire Strikes Back was the first one I watched, because I remember it was the old VHS box set with the purple lettering, and then there's a stormtrooper on the front. Oh, you remember those VHSs?
Yes, I do. I used to have
Return of the Jedi had Yoda.
And
the first one was Vader.
No, I think okay. The first one was Vader.
Empire. It was blue text and Vader.
Yeah.
And Empire was purple, or no, was Return of the Jedi purple text? I can't remember.
I think it was Return of the Jedi, because I remember. Okay, New Hope had a stormtrooper, and Empire Strikes Back had Yoda. Oh wait, no, Empire Strikes Back had Darth Vader, if I'm correct.
No, Empire had the stormtrooper, and then the Return of the Jedi was Yoda, and I think the first one was Vader, but I'm not sure actually. Now I think about it.
Yeah, and I also have the laser disc, but the special edition laser disc, not the.
Actually, it was blue text Vader for New Hope, and then Empire was Stormtrooper. No, wait, what? I'm looking up because we have Google. We have Google nowadays. Yeah,
yes, we do.
Stormtrooper, and then then it was green text and Yoda for Jedi was VHS. Yeah. Oh no, it was purple-ish text and Yoda.
Oh, okay, okay. Well, that's going way back. Well, everyone nowadays is asking, what the hell is VHS? It's a tape.
Yeah. And you had to rewind it. Like your family would get mad at you if you didn't rewind it back to the beginning. Yeah.
I know. Yes, though I used to burn out my rewinder watching VHS tapes.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But it was that, yeah. I was in just the Toys R Us, and my dad's like, "Oh yeah, this thing called Star Wars. I think you'll like it." And I watched it, and I kept watching it over and over and over. And then yeah, in '97, when I was 7, that they came back out, they re-released them in theaters for the special editions, and so I watched them in theaters. I remember I went with one of my friends for Empire, and I'm over here just watching it. And I'm so gross, and he's over here like sleeping. I'm like, "What? How are you not like this? Is like the most amazing thing."
I know, yeah.
And then a few years later, Phantom Menace came out. Me and my brother like loved the movie. I remember I like had a Darth Maul saber, and I would fight my friends with it. When Attack of the Clones came out, I remember me and my brother would recite. I would play Anakin, he would play Obi-Wan, and we would just go through the movie like reciting their lines and then like doing the lightsaber moves as the movie would progress and stuff like that.
Yeah. Did you ever see? Did you see Revenge of the Sith in theaters?
Yeah, I just saw it in theaters. I saw all of them in theaters.
Oh wow, that's crazy! I never saw any Star Wars movie in theaters because
until Force Awakens or whatever.
Yes, unfortunately, because I grew up with. Ironically, the first one, Phantom Menace, was my first exposure to Star Wars, but I grew to love the originals more. But the prequels, in some way or another, hold a special place in my heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after that, I know this is a weird question, but like, okay, in your opinion, what makes Star Wars for you? Even though nowadays everyone has this preconceived notion that Star Wars isn't going to be what it used to be because of the expanded universe being gone and Disney ruining it, in their opinion. That's the majority opinion nowadays. But like, what makes Star Wars?
I actually doubt that.
Really?
I actually doubt that is the majority opinion, because I feel like maybe in the circles that we run in, you see that as the majority. But if you actually go out to just a regular person, like, Star Wars is really dope even today. You know what I mean? Like, it's not this like religious experience kind of a thing that you get with some people. Or even if you go to Star Wars Celebration, there's so many different types of Star Wars fans out there. And unfortunately, there are some negative Nancys out there that are very vocal online, you know, stuff like that. But really, if you really go out and just talk to regular Star Wars fans, like if you go to the convention or if you just go out to the street or you go to like movie theater, most people are loving Star Wars. Even today.
I do. I agree. And that's what I like about Star Wars. Because, you know, I mean, Star Wars is Star Wars. I mean, there are going to be many different versions and interpretations of how to do Star Wars, but I still have this notion that it's the fans that make Star Wars. It's not the films or any of the characters. I mean, it can be, but I just think as long as the fans can understand where that love comes from, I think that's what keeps Star Wars alive. But I just want to know, like, your thoughts on what makes
Star Wars for me is probably the Force, and in particular, like all the sequences between Yoda and Luke in Empire Strikes Back. For me, is what like Star Wars always has meant for me. It's like more of a philosophical type of thing of meaning, and less because of like the swashbuckling or the adventure, blowing up Death Stars or lightsaber battles. It's more about the more intimate moments like that. Like those are always my favorite sequences. Like recently, I read the new Luke Skywalker book, which is called The Legends of Luke Skywalker, written by Ken Leung, I believe his last name was.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite stories in there was literally just them talking about the nature of what it means to use the Force and what is good and evil, or if there is a good and evil to the Force. Like those types of questions, or those types of scenes and sequences is what like makes Star Wars for me personally, less so than any other aspect of Star Wars.
Awesome. I would like to, if it's okay with you, I like to talk about your Versus series, because I know this is what most people know your channel for, but as you said on your stream, you do other stuff and you plan on doing other stuff in the future. But so how did the Versus series get started? Like, what made you want to start your own Versus series and try and figure out, okay, with these odds stacked on top of these, who would definitively win if this battle ever happened?
That's funny, because it started. Okay, so that's complicated, because it started out as being definitive winner, and now as I've gone along, it's more about most likely winner, because I felt like what I was doing before, especially with the verdicts, that I was only examining like the scenario, like a one-time scenario type situation. I'm like, okay, if they fought, this is like the one-time scenario. Now I look at more like, okay, in terms of like 10 battles, like who would most likely win those 10 battles, or like over the course of like 100 battles, whatever, who wins the most, like who is more of that case than like definitive. But the reason I got into it first was kind of like a little bit of arrogance, because I felt like the versus videos that were already online, because I'm a multimedia major, I felt like they weren't edited as well as they could have, like, or the audio music mixing wasn't like there for me, because I was like, oh, these are good like information wise, but I was like, it could be done a lot better, like, you know. So I applied like what I learned in like film school and stuff like that, or the editing that I was doing, because that was like my main thing then, was editing, as well as just like working retail. But that's what it was, really just that. It was like, oh well, I like you know, these sorts of franchises, and also like I didn't want to just start it with Star Wars, because like I think after I did, it was first Mace versus Malgus, then it was Bane versus somebody, I can't remember, Vader or something like that. And then then immediately after, I did Harry Potter versus Ron, and then I did Amon versus Katara, because I was like, well, I don't want to just like stick to just Star Wars. Like I feel like the verse series can be expanded out to much more than just that.
Yeah.
And if you kind of notice now, like personally, like I see, like if you see some of the newer versus stuff, like the editing quality has like increased. Like,
oh yes, and that's what that's what I love about him personally. It's just like because I watch all of the Council Force cast versus series. Like I watch yours, Evan's, Jen Sarai's, Grey Jedi's, Evan, and of course just all of you guys's. But with yours, I noticed that the editing gets more sophisticated and more detailed over time, and it sort of stands out more. Like the editing is what stands out to me more, and that's what I love about it. But I love that with your versus series, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but with your versus series, it's as you said, instead of being definitive, it's more like, okay, what would happen? And I like that you go into every detail as much as you possibly can to find out which of these characters from which franchises could win. And you're not just doing them because, oh, okay, well, that just that should happen. Like you're doing them because they can either make sense or they're just a what if kind of scenario.
Right. Which I had recently with Iroh versus Ozai, is that was definitely based on speculation, because there's like so little that you could use from Ozai, because Sosa's comment is the only time you actually have definitive feats for him. And so for that kind of situation, that one becomes a lot more. And I like to specify that, because I felt like, again, in other versus videos, like I feel like they were kind of speaking like this is exclusively about what happened, and like the language that was being used felt like very like that it is definitive, and I feel like these things aren't definitive unless you are the creator of the series or something like that. Like it really is just you speculating as a fan. So whatever you say, ultimately, and sometimes people will come to my videos and be like, well, Antoine said this, so it has to be true, and I hate that. That's the reason why I started implementing sources into the video, so that I hate it when people would just use an argument by saying, so-and-so YouTube said this, so this must be true. Yeah. Versus saying like, so-and-so YouTuber used this source or used this reference, therefore this thing must be true. And that's why I think maybe it was like 2.5 years ago that I started like sequencing sources. So like whenever I'm talking about a specific ability or a specific scenario, it's referencing back to something. It's not just me just talking on my butt like, oh, I just think this because I like this character better. No, I think this because, you know, this is what I've interacted with in terms of like the lore.
Right, absolutely. And just to kind of this has always been a question of mine, but so like how does the process go for your versus series? So how do you decide which franchise is next, or which one is interesting and could be good to both you and your subscribers? And like how long does the process take, and how much detail do you try and put into this to make it as best as you believe it can be?
It's pretty random, actually, like the way I choose usually. Before, I think I was doing like, do one Harry Potter, do a Star Wars, do Avatar, Harry Potter, Star Wars, Avatar. Like I was doing like that before, but now like since I do like crossovers now and like different, like I did Game of Thrones at one point. I I would like to do Naruto coming up. I guess now it's just kind of like whatever I care like to do at this point, and wherever I like have an inspiration for. But what I start off with is I think of the matchup like first off, like who do I think will be a cool matchup? It doesn't necessarily have to be like what will be a close matchup, just like what I think would just be a cool matchup in general. Like I've done matchups where like it's very clear who the victor should be. But then I'll do that. I'll research by usually going online to see what other people are saying about those particular matchups. Like if I'm doing a Iroh versus Ozai, then I'll go on like Comic Vine or Reddit, like head-to-head battles, and like see what like people are saying, what kind of things they're arguing, just so I can address those in the video. Because sometimes in the past, I've made videos where I'm like, oh, I wish I would have addressed that, but I didn't even know that like mentality existed. And it's good to have those kinds of interactions or those conversations beforehand so that you can know, what might come up or what someone might say in relation to that video or whatever it is. So now I'll do that. I'll do the research, and then I'll look at the lore itself. Like I'll look at whether it's an episode or a book or comic book or whatever. Like I'll read it and then go over like also what was the author intending for that thing, or the director, filmmaker, whatever, or writer. And then think about, does it make sense for the character based on what they were doing before? Is it consistent? Like, or is it a plot induced stupidity kind of moment? Like a lot of times I'll get into something like Obi-Wan in episode 1 versus Darth Maul. People are like, Obi-Wan beat Maul, but like it never really felt that way to me. I always felt that it was more of like a Hollywood ending, and that it was more that Maul lost to his hubris than he lost via skill. Because if you look at it based on skill, which is how I look at the verses, in terms of skill, Maul definitively beat both Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Yes.
And that it wasn't until like a state of circumstance which has him lose that fight. So I think about all that stuff when I do the matchup, and then I break it down usually through 3 rounds. If it's Avatar, it's based on physical abilities, bending abilities, tactical abilities. If it's Game of Thrones, then it's like physical equipment, tactics. Star Wars, it's force abilities, dueling, physical. Harry Potter, I break it down in three things. I do an intro, just kind of saying, oh, this is what the matchups are going to be about. These are who they are, blah, blah. Physical, whatever the second round is, third round is, and then a verdict. And the verdict has evolved a lot. At first, I just kind of said, oh, this is who I think I would win and why. Then I started doing a thing where I did like single scenarios where it's like, oh, this is how the fight would go down. And like I describe it as a, like if you were reading it, or like you were watching the fight scene, like how would like each move and everything, how that would go down. Then I evolved it to a 3 verdict system, which was early fight, mid fight, late fight, and then talking about within those sections of the fight, what's more definitive. Like even to the point where not even just like who's the most likely victor, but at what point in the fight are they most likely to win? Or are they going to win in the early fight? Are they going to win in the mid fight? Or is it going to be a very long form fight and they would win in that regard? And yeah, then I do that, and then I record it. Sometimes I'll record it right after I finish writing a section. So I'll like write the physical, then record it, write the second round, then record it. Or I'll do it all at once. It just depends on how I'm feeling or what the matchup is. Then I edit it, and then I upload it. That's it.
Awesome. Do you have any favorite episodes that you've done?
Yes, hold on. I have a list of them right here too.
Okay, because you've done so many, and it just every time you do them, I'm just like, it's better than it's not trying to be better, but it's just like I can't decide. Like all of them are good.
Yeah, hold on. Let me see, because I actually do legit have a list. Oh wait, hold on. Stay. Save changes.
Okay.
Playlist. Actually, oh yeah. Also, for anyone who is like on my YouTube channel, I've organize like all my videos into playlists. So if you're ever just trying to like find like a type of video that you like, it's probably in a playlist for you to like consume that in a playlist, especially because my channel is so all over the place with the content. Like it's very good to use playlists. So one of my playlists is, I believe it's called Antoine's favorite versus videos. I want to see favorite. Now I have one for my favorite Geek Talks. But where's my favorite verses? Hold on, let me find it. Oh, here it is. Versus videos, my favorites.
Yeah.
So one of my favorites would be Luke versus Ahsoka on the Star Wars front.
Oh, okay.
For Harry Potter, it's McGonagall and Snape. For my crossover series, it would be Jean versus Nanashi. Game of Thrones is only one, but it's still my favorite. It's Khal Drogo versus Oberyn Martell. I also like the three-way battle I did with Obi-Wan, Kenobi, Anakin, and Ahsoka for the
that one was good.
Yeah, and I like that one mostly because it's not just a versus video. It's also kind of examining how Padawans learn and how they evolve.
Yeah.
Of course, Yoda versus Ewoks, which was an April Fool's one, was really fun.
That one was good.
Rick and Carl versus Joel and Ellie. If you
yes,
and that's one of my that's probably one of my top 3 period, no matter
I did a reaction to it, and my reaction is infamous because I mispronounced your last name, and still to this day I'm like, why did I do that?
Oh yeah, it's like Andale in Spanish, but with the B, so it's Bandele. It's a Yoruba last name.
Yeah.
And I think I like Anakin and Mace a lot. I actually, despite most people might think this, I actually don't even like Aang versus Korra all that much.
Really?
I actually don't like that one that much.
Yeah, because a lot of people have been trying to figure that out. I'm
not the matchup, not the script. I just don't like the way I produced it. I'm cool with the script. In terms of script, that's I'm fine with. Most of my scripts I'm fine with. The only ones I don't really care for in terms of scripts, I can't really even tell right now. But there's a few that are script based, but most of it is because of the production. Again, remember, it's the reason I care about this stuff is because of the quality and production. I just don't like the Aang versus Korra on a production level. I don't like a lot of my videos up until 2015 or 2016, actually. But yeah, I think those are most of my favorites, I would say.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but your Aang versus Korra one, that was very good because in my opinion, even though Aang won, it was still good how it came off and how you presented, even though I still don't agree with people saying, oh, well, Antoine said that Aang could be Korra. So
right. That's why I hate that so much. I hate it so much.
Yeah. I'm just
the shorthand of it is that Aang wins with Avatar State, but without Avatar State, I still think Korra. If I did it, some people even say that's not fair. You did it with Avatar State. If I did it with Avatar State, then I would have argued for Korra at that point. But then people at that point would be like, "Oh, it's not fair because they're not the same age." But it's you can't really speculate on Aang because we have no idea what he was at the same age. And if we do that, then you get people saying "Well, you're being biased because you have no idea what Aang was during that time of the same age as Korra."
Yeah.
The only way to do it fairly is by doing it by the time that we saw them in the show. So that's how I did it.
And I really hope the Dark Horse comics really, because I know you've also kept up with those, but I really hope the Dark Horse comics give us a clear picture on Aang's adult selves potential, because we got a little bit of it in Korra, but it was never really fully realized. We just
you don't really know because it's just he did an airball and he took Yakon's bidding, and that's all we really get from adult.
Yeah, exactly. But this also just like Star Wars. So how did you get into Avatar? And I guess I might as well ask the age-old question, which do you prefer? If you had to pick one, do you prefer Aang's character or Korra's character?
Oh, easily Aang if we're talking about just characters, but if we're talking about shows, it'd be a little bit harder for me because I like Korra's individual seasons better, but I like Aang's overarching 3-arc book better. So it's really complicated with me with that franchise.
Yeah.
The first time I watched it was, I know it was within book 2, sometime in book 2. I think in book 1, someone was or people were just it's such a great show, whatever, but I didn't really care to look at it because whatever, Nickelodeon. SpongeBob SquarePants comes from there, and the Fairly Odd Parents. I don't care about that.
Yeah.
But then I watched it, and then then I liked it. But then I didn't really interact with it until I started doing the verses, and then I started because what happens is that my first 3 Avatar videos aren't actually that great because I was doing everything based off of memory, and I wasn't actually going back and researching. I was just oh, I think that's what happened. I think that's what they did in that that thing. It wasn't until I think probably after my fourth video that I actually was like, oh, I should probably go back and like rewatch it so I can like make sure all this stuff is like correct and stuff like that. But like my first few videos are like really bad for Avatar. Yeah, I watched it a little bit. Didn't watch it for like a long time. Then Legend of Korra came out, and then I did the rewatch for Airbender and all that stuff.
Yeah, that's good. Well, my personal favorite versus series video of yours is still to this day Ahsoka Tano versus Korra.
Oh yeah, that one's pretty good.
Yeah,
and like again for production reasons, I don't like that one, but it's still okay. Like the script's okay.
Yeah, yeah, and a lot of people have been asking you if you could ever do Anakin versus Korra, and I can see the appeal to that, but I don't know how that would go in your opinion.
I don't like doing repeating franchise versus franchise because I feel like once I do it once, it's kind of like the same sort of arguments will kind of come up. Like people ask like, oh, can you do like Yoda versus Dumbledore? But I was like, it's gonna be pretty much the same arguments that I did for like Vader versus Voldemort. Wait, did I say Yoda versus Voldemort? I meant Yoda versus Dumbledore.
Yeah,
and I don't want to do it because the same arguments will come up that I did for Vader versus Voldemort. So yeah, that's why I generally don't like redo franchise versus franchises unless they're like so closely aligned. Like I do want to do eventually if I ever do finish Naruto, but it's crazy because that thing has 400 episodes.
Yeah,
I would like do Aang versus Naruto, but like that seems like it's impossible to do.
Oh
like,
yeah, and
so
then you got Boruto on top of that.
Right, like I don't know if I can do all that. So
yeah,
but I do want to do a Zabuza versus Haku.
Yeah, it's Haku. Oh, well, that's also segues into a other good question. Like, so you mentioned on your stream your episodes that you're doing. Like, can you give us a little sneak preview of how those episodes are going to go?
You mean for like the next things I'm about to like do like on my channel?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm doing a tier system for Avatar. So I'm going to go through like each tier, breaking down like there's going to be I think it's called the God tier. Hold on, I have the list right here actually. It just has to refresh. Because I do everything online because like Google Docs and like Apple Pages are the best.
Yeah.
You can say wherever you want to. Yeah, so like tier 1 is gods and spirits. So for instance, it's like people who are like Aang in his avatar state, Hundan or the cosmic energy core, like those are those type of characters. And like tier 2 is like sub-god, who are people like Vatu or like Ko, the face stealer, or Old Iron, like people like that. Tier 3 are like the bloodbenders. Tier 4, avatar people, grandmasters, high tier, mid tier. So I'm doing that as a video. Like each video is going to be its own like system of tiering. Mm-hmm. I'm going to do that as a series coming up. I'm doing Grandmaster Yoda versus Grandmaster Luke coming up. I'm doing what was the other video thing I had? Oh my god, I forgot already. Suki versus Jet from Avatar is coming up. I have an analysis video thing I'm doing lightsaber. I'm doing all the lightsaber duels that have occurred in Star Wars media. And now I'm up to, I just finished the Bespin fight one, or not the Bespin fight one, the Cave of Evil fight between Luke and Vader, which is not really a fight, it's just like his own in his head fight. But I did that, and now I'm doing the Bespin fight between Luke and Vader, and that's coming up.
Awesome. Awesome. And you're also doing a match that I've been just heavily saying yes to over the past few years. Samurai Jack versus Afro Samurai.
Oh yes, that one's coming up at some point. Someone wanted to animate that too, but like I feel like I didn't want to put him through all that stuff because I take forever to like finish it, and he's been wanting to do it for such a long time. So I'm probably gonna do it like regular and not have it animated.
Yeah, that's fine.
But yeah, that should be the one after Yoda. Grandmaster Yoda, or after Suki versus Jet, something like that. One of those.
Oh, okay. That's good. Well, if it's okay with you, like, so I know you really can't talk much about the future versus episodes you have planned because those have barely been done yet. But can you tell us about Grandmaster Luke versus Yoda? Because you'll be using, for those who don't know, this is not Last Jedi Luke versus Yoda. This is the EU Luke versus Yoda. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
That's funny because I have commentary about that. About
yeah, it's like
I actually, funny enough, I'm such a weird dude, but like I don't like either the post Return of the Jedi expanded universe Luke or the Last Jedi Luke, which is very funny. Like I'm just not, no one can satisfy me with Luke, and it's only because I don't really like Luke. It's not so much I don't like Luke, I just don't like the way the lore presented itself after like Return of the Jedi, like expanded
Yeah.
universe. I feel like everything was just so like uber god powerful that they were doing
Yeah,
all
it
this
was
stuff.
less about the characters and more about the force powers that these characters would gain. I see where you're coming from.
Right. It's like it's funny on that token. I'm like I didn't really care for the post Return of the Jedi EU for that, but then yeah, then Last Jedi came out, and I was like, I really don't care for
Yeah.
what they did. Like that is like the most egregious thing to me
Yes. No, I
was what
agree.
happened in Last Jedi. Which, but yeah, there's a small rant I have within that versus video about like the two versions of Luke and
Oh, awesome.
why I'm choosing the expanded universe versus Luke and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Because yeah,
So you won't be using Jake Skywalker versus Yoda.
no, I'm not. I'm really not. I'm really not. I would never. He's off the table entirely for me. Like I don't think I would ever use. Like I might. There might be stories because I still am okay with canon Luke. I actually prefer canon Luke right now up until Battlefront 2 because Battlefront 2 Luke, the small bit of cutscenes that he had in that game were like, oh my god, yes, that's Luke Skywalker. It's awesome.
Yes. Hell yes.
So like so far, I mean, there might be a moment in time where like up to a certain point, I'll use canon Luke, like maybe until like he gets closer and closer to like what he was in Last Jedi. So I won't say definitively that I won't use post Return of Jedi Luke in canon because I still would use him up to Battlefront 2, but that's a whole other thing.
Yeah. Awesome, awesome. Well, again, I'm happy you're doing that because I've always wanted to see you. Evan did it on his. He did Luke versus Mace Windu, and I'm just like, I would love to see where Antoine can go with this. But that's the funny thing with EU Luke. You know, he's overpowered as hell. So the only other person that would make sense to put him up against is Yoda.
Yeah, it's probably the last time I'm ever using expanded universe Luke or that version of Luke. That's why I usually use Return of the Jedi Luke, is because I feel like his skill set is like more in line with being like I don't know, like a regular, not a regular person, but like people can compete with that, you know, versus like the Grandmaster Luke of old.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, now I saved the best for last because I really want to hear about this. As we said earlier in this, you just released your first book, your first novel, the Kihishi, and it's been doing very, very good. So tell us about that. Like, okay, what was the inspiration for that, and how did you decide to come up with it?
Well, it was like a case of I didn't actually really even want to write the book. I just like there was no book out there like it, and I just didn't want to wait for someone to write it and just write it myself. But it was probably after reading the first Game of Thrones book and after watching, I think it was maybe the 5th season. Spoiler alert for Game of Thrones season 5, but it was after the scene where Jon Snow got stabbed and you think he's dead. So like, for some reason, for whatever reason in my mind, I was like, oh, I wonder if there's like anything that's like Game of Thrones or Lord of the Rings, but like set in Africa, like anything like that that's surrounded. Like, because the thing is that I think a lot of the fantasy genre that we have is very Eurocentric. Like you can say dragon and you're very familiar with that trope and what that is.
Yeah.
Or with knights and stuff like that, or with witchcraft. But you like would say the word Takeshi and not know what the hell that is, or you know, a Kongamato, and you're like, what the hell is that? Or a Tokoloshi, and you're like, what? Who is? And like that's that. I felt like that needed a change, and it's funny because like there's so much like folklore around African cultures, you know, whether it's a deity system or like a monster or something like that. So I just decided like, okay, like let me write it. And it really is my brother who introduced me to it, because the Kishi shows up in one of the Dungeons and Dragons books. I think it's the 5th edition, if I'm not mistaken. And my brother's really big into D&D and doing all that stuff.
Awesome.
So he put me to that. And then I did more research and I was like, oh yeah, it's like a total, like legit folklore from Angola. And it's funny because one of my, I got a comment recently, hold on, from somebody who lives in that country and is so proud that I did it, because she's, again, like same as me, like she never saw anyone ever do stories based around that. Her grandfather used to tell her stories about it and stuff like that, and she's never seen it like in fiction like that before. I think I did the screenshot of her. Oh, you know what? I did the screenshot on my computer and uploaded it to Instagram. I pretty much said what she said. She just said that, like, you know, she never saw it before, and that like something that she used to do with her granddad who is now passed. And so for her, it was really special, to have that. And I was like, that's crazy, because it's crazy to have someone have such a good experience with it when that was like what you wanted to set out and do. So yeah, now I'm writing that as a series. The next one is about a sky pirate, which is more about it's gonna have some interaction with mythology with African sea creatures. Not so much, but a bit. But it's gonna be more Afro-Arabic. The next book. Think about if the space between Egypt and Sudan and like Ethiopia and Somalia, like think about if Somalia was broken off into like a set of islands, and those were like a set of pirate islands between Saudi Arabia and like Egypt and Sudan. Like that's basically like what the fictional like look of it is, and pirates in that area. And what I'm doing is I'm trying to build out the world piece by piece. So like right now I don't know what the definitive world map of the world is quite yet. I just know what the little section I did for the Kishi is. I know the little section that I'm doing for the first Sky Pirate is. So I'm building those all out, essentially making the prequels before like you do the prequels, like where people write like the main books and they're like, oh, here's the prequels. I'm basically doing the prequels first. Like if you're thinking about like Game of Thrones, like I'm basically writing about the rebellion that Ned Stark and Robert went on before the Game of Thrones books are written. So I'm doing that first, and then I'm going to write the big epic saga with the big long books. But I'm doing this for two reasons. One, again, to build out the world bit by bit, and then two, so that I can get better at writing. Because when I do get to that big epic, I want to make sure that my craft is more honed at that point than with these smaller books and these smaller projects.
Oh wow, that's awesome, man. And again, like when you explain the idea on your Kickstarter, and I read the description, and I'm like, this is so original. Like even it's like you said, I mean, not many people tackle it, and they've never done it before. So I'm happy you did it. And again, like it's just this world. I love stuff like that. I love reading novels that explore fantasy, and I just love getting into what this world is and how it is and the characters. So that's why I think that's why I love the Kiishi, like the premise of it, and that's why I'm happy you're continuing it.
And it's very funny because the beta readers that were reading it before it was released, like when it was still in like second draft or third draft, whatever, the thing that they commented on that like the most was the action stuff, which is like a carryover from like, I guess, the versus stuff. Because they're like, oh man, you described how they fight and like the limitations for how they fight like really well. And I was like, oh, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. So sorry, I can't talk. But yeah, you described what inspired you, and you've obviously told us what the future is for the Kiishi. But do you have any other plans? Like once you feel like you've mastered your craft, do you have any other plans to go off and sort of write more original? Oh, okay.
Oh my goodness, yes. I have way more books that I want to write beyond the Tales of Esselon thing, and then what is gonna then become the Corday Chronicles, which is like this Queen Chronicles thing. I want to write a book about I want to do a book about camp, like someone going to summer camp. Like I want to do this big like cool anthology with like all these other authors that we can collaborate together and like do the summer camp book. I want to do a it's funny that we were talking about Afro Samurai, because I feel like when I was rewatching it to do research for the which lightsaber form video for Afro Samurai, I didn't realize that it wasn't as good as I remember it. And I want to write another story because Afro Samurai is based on a true life black samurai named Yasuke.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Yeah, so I want to make my own version of a Yasuke-inspired story about a black samurai in Japan, which I want to write. Actually, I want to write that next year, like in between my Tales of Eswan, because like I was saying before on my live stream, not on this here, was that I get bored very easily, and I hop around all the time. So like even with this, I'll know that like with Tales of Eswan, I don't want to continue writing that all the time, so I'm going to switch it over like every few books and then write like what I'm going to be calling Samurai Dread a few for that, and then continue on to other projects. I also want to do one based on the Yoruba deity systems, which are a West African deity system. They have like
Uh-huh.
it's kind of like if you think about the Greek gods. It's basically that, but for West Africa.
Oh, wow. That's
I want
awesome.
to do something for that. I do want to do a romance book with this other author lady that I know. I want to do a horror. I'm going to do a choose your own adventure horror book. Like I don't know if you ever read Goosebumps as a kid, but like
Yes, I love
remember how you could
Goosebumps.
choose like at the end of the chapter, you could be like,
Yeah,
hey, do you want to go inside the haunted house or do you want to go back home? Like
I
we're
know.
gonna
I
we're
would
gonna do
always go
that.
in the haunted house.
Yeah. So we're gonna do that for a book project. So yeah, I'm doing a horror book project that I want to do. I want to do that middle grade young adult book, the summer book, the samurai one. Yeah, I have like a lot that I want to do beyond just this one.
Awesome. Well, if you had the choice, like once you feel like you've had so many creative, great books, like, is there any franchise right now that you feel that you would love to add your own story to? Like, for example, if Mike, if the creators of Avatar, which this is a huge hypothetical, if they read the Kahishi and they asked you, hey, so we're doing another Avatar book, but this time we're going to be tackling Aang into getting into his adult state potential, and we've seen your Versus series, so we want to know, like, would you like to collaborate with us, and do you have any ideas how that could go?
I don't, but I do have a friend who has like told fan fiction based on who the new Avatar, the Earth Kingdom Avatar would be. So I would actually direct them to Turk McGurk. She's awesome for that. If there's a franchise that I would want to write for, though, it would probably be none of the ones I interact with now, like on my channel. Funny enough, but with oh my god, what was the one that I like a lot? The Brandon Sanderson, Mistborn. Mistborn would be dope. That franchise would be dope to write in.
Oh, awesome, man. That's awesome. So yeah, so before we end, I just want to ask you, because I know some people will probably ask you, but do you have any advice, like, for people who want to write, who want to publish a novel, and just basically want to get their stories, their creative juices off the ground?
Follow Jenna Morosi. She's a YouTuber on YouTube, but she is probably like she's easily the best indie author teacher that is online right now. It's spelled JennaMoreci. She is a little bit raunchy. Like, if you don't like people who curse all the time or like are really like candid and honest, that's the reason why I love her.
Yeah.
But she's super dope. If you want someone who's like more like chill or whatever, Chris Fox is amazing. I would say follow Joanna Pinn. She's amazing as well. Sterling and Stone, those guys over there are super dope. Their book, Write, Publish, and Repeat, is like the book that got me to realize that I could do this and like make it happen on a self-publishing, indie publishing level. But yeah, like those guys, like yeah, I don't have advice because those guys give much better advice than I would ever be able to give.
Okay. Well, here's a question I think you can answer. So what would you like if somebody wanted to, again, start a Versus series like you or like Evan or like Jen Sarai? Like, what advice would you give them on how to do that and to do theirs differently?
I would say just do it. And the thing is that I always try to adapt my Versus to what made sense to me. And that's the reason why it's evolved the way it's evolved and why it's changed over time. So yeah, I would say do what makes sense to you, because it's always going to be different for whatever person you're interacting with or talking to. But yeah, just to do it. Like, don't like look for permission. Like
Yeah.
you if you have a phone or you have a computer, or you don't even have to have a computer or do like fancy editing. You can literally just like have your phone and talk about it like yourself, like just however you want to do it. But yeah, like don't limit yourself. Just do it.
Awesome. One last question. I'm sorry to boggle you down with so many questions. So what is the future of your channel? Like, where do you see yourself going? Because you talked a little bit about this on your stream. You will be doing something different. And for those who just subscribe to you for Versus series or just for geek culture in general, like, where do you see yourself going in the next 2 to 5 years from now?
I mean, it's gonna stay the same. Like, it's gonna be pretty much the same content people are used to now. It's just gonna be slower, and that there's gonna be a priority to writing. Like, the writing is always gonna come first before like the YouTube channel. And not so much that it takes priority, but like my YouTube channel is gonna go back to the way it was before, where it was a hobby channel. Because I feel like what happened in those 2 to 3 years that it took off is that I lost sight of what I really want to do, and that's being a creative and not just talking about other people's franchises and talking about their worlds, but creating my own worlds and creating my own characters, and being a creative in that way. So like, again, like everything's going to stay pretty much the same. Like it's just that you won't see it at the same uptick as it was before, basically. But yeah, like nothing crazy different is going to happen like in the next few years.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me. And again, it's been a real honor to have you. And just thanks again, man. And once again, congratulations on the book. Congratulations on your continuing success as a YouTuber and your creativity.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And there you go, everyone. That was episode 3. If you enjoyed this, then please hit that like button and subscribe button. And please go down below. I'll leave tons of links to Antoine's channel. Go subscribe to him. Also, go follow him on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, and please go buy his book, The Kihishi. You guys will really enjoy it, and give him an amazing review on Amazon. He really deserves it.
You can subscribe if you want to. Like if you like the content. I do. The cool thing I have now is I have something called the channel sampler playlist.
Oh,
so
sure.
the first thing you should look at is that, and then look at that and see if you're cool with like all the crazy stuff that I do on the channel. And then if you like it, then subscribe. But you don't have to subscribe just because you think I'm a cool guy or whatever. Like if you like the content, then subscribe. And same with the book. Like if you're into fantasy, I would definitely recommend it. But if you're like a romance reader, like that's okay. You don't have to read it. Like it's not for you. It's cool. Like, I'll still like you.
Aww. Well, there you go, guys. As we both said, go check out Antoine and subscribe to both of us. And we hope you enjoyed this. And until then, I will see you guys for the next interview or the next video. And also, you will see Antoine for his next video.
See you guys.
Bye, everybody. May the force be with you.